Welcome to the Action Network podcast. I am your host, Evan Abrams, and I am joined, as always, on the recap episode, on the best episode, on any episode really we do here, because he's the best, Brandon Anderson. First of all, Brandon, what's up? How are you?
You know, I'm doing well. Fun day of football. The Chiefs did the Chiefs thing again to end the day. Less fun day of football betting for me. Not my best day of the year. 2-15 on the bets. We're going to have to get it back starting tonight. We got a couple hot reads coming for you. A couple bets already in. So, you know, we go up and down a little bit. But fun day of games. Ready to talk about it and get into next week's stuff too.
Well, we might as well get into the first game here, which is Sunday Night Football, and a winner from you, because you did have the under in this one. Chiefs win 19-17. Of course, they don't cover the 4.5 point spread, because when do they ever cover a spread? Total goes under 43. Honestly, the storyline first half and the storyline second half felt like two completely different games. The Chiefs were extremely pass heavy in the first half, stalling in the red zone, which was pretty much the entire game. I mean, first half, it was basically 0 for 2-ish near the red zone, 2 for 2 on field goals. They were 1 for 3 actually in the red zone in the entire game. But first half, the Chargers offense, basically 6 drives, 5 punts, 2 3-and-outs, and a failed drive to end the half. And they had nothing. I mean, Herbert got hurt. He was getting knocked around, and so was Mahomes. Both quarterbacks end the game with 3 sacks apiece. It felt like pressure was getting in on both sides of the ball here for both quarterbacks. The other point of this, which is just really intriguing, was how the second half starts, right? So first drive, 13 plays, 79 yards, touchdown. That's the Chargers. Their next drive, 4 plays, 74 yards, touchdown. It looked like they were having a much easier time without McConkey, where in the first half, they looked like they did all year when he doesn't play. And it was, you know, for anyone, I know Nick Giffen was in on the Chargers under 19.5 team total in this one. And he was right in the sense that without McConkey, they just looked absolutely lost. But we can kind of push ahead here because we all know what ends up happening. 4:35 to go. Chargers have the lead. Then all of a sudden they're giving the ball back to Kansas City. And anyone who's seen the movie before says to themselves, all right, well, the Chargers aren't getting the ball back. And they never did. 14 plays, 47 yards, the huge first down. It was Kelsey, right? It was Kelsey on that last first down? Yep. And here are the storylines before I toss it over to you from a stats point of view after the Chargers win this game, because I think it's important based off of their resume and who they are as a team. So from the Chargers side, Herbert still only has 1 interception. He's gone 11 straight starts now without a pick, which really is putting the Chargers in every single game they play and probably pulling out some games they shouldn't. From the Chiefs side, I think it's pretty intriguing that they're 12-1 and they only have 10 takeaways this year. It's just unbelievably voodoo stuff happening in Kansas City week to week. And there's some tweets out there that are literally going through every single scenario that has led them to this mark. But 12-1 straight up, 4-8-1 against the spread. I mean, I can go on here. Chiefs win the AFC West in their 9th straight year. They were 1-2 odds in the preseason. It felt inevitable when you started looking through each team and kind of how the season went. The stat I will say is since 1990, only 2 teams have had a 75% win percentage while on a 7+ game ATS losing streak. That would be the 2024 Chiefs and the 2020 Chiefs. It is the same story over and over again. And I'll give you one more, which is the under. The under was pretty comfortable all of tonight. Now, in his career at Arrowhead, Mahomes is 41-26 to the under, 13-6 when they face an AFC West team, and Herbert is 19-5 to the under in his last 24 starts. And Sunday Night Football, 39-19 to the under since 22. So it all kind of fell that way, but it just felt like another Chiefs win in typical Chiefs territory. What do you have here, Brandon?
Yeah, this under was my first pick of the week and my favorite. Apparently, I should have just stopped there and just put all the units on that one and been done for the week. Under was good. Under felt good all the way. I feel like for the Chargers, from a 1-game standpoint, you kind of feel pretty good about this. Like, I think just before halftime, even when it was 3-0 or maybe 6-0 and the Chiefs were driving, and the announcers kind of said the same thing. You're like, I'm not sure that Harbaugh's too upset the way this has gone. Like, they definitely had, they had I forget if it was Palmer or who it was, had him open for a touchdown, just a little bit overthrown.
Palmer.
Chargers receiver, so half would have dropped it anyways, even if it hit him. But, I think this is the script you want for the Chargers. So on the one hand, you're in Arrowhead facing the now 12-1 back-to-back Super Bowl champions on the road, big division game. You basically played them even, missing your top running back, missing your only real go-to receiver, without really a lot of weapons to start with. The stats are just like dead even across the board. They're within 10 yards of each other. Neither team even hit 300 on the night. They're exactly equal on first downs. Just like time of possession, almost dead equal. Neither team turned it over. So yeah, it comes down to a field goal at the end. Like that's kind of what happens in a game like this. Unfortunately, you lost the coin flip. And if you're the Chargers, you can't keep losing these type of coin flicks. And if you're the Chiefs, you apparently can keep winning them. That's just what they're going to do. I feel like from a Chargers standpoint, you feel pretty good about the process here. You feel pretty good about what your team did, where this is going. Like, remember, this is only 13 games into the Jim Harbaugh era here. Nobody really had the Chargers coming to Kansas City late in the season, still with like a real shot at the division in their eyes this season. That line looked pretty good. They kept Harbaugh protected. I thought the defense did its job. You hold the Chiefs at home to under 300 yards. You make them work for it the way they did. Even like the drive you said, the winning drive, 14 plays, 47 yards? That's Chiefs football now. Unfortunately, it sucks to watch. It's like 2 yards, 3 yards, 3 yards, fourth down conversion, like 14 plays, 47 yards. And granted, there's a couple kneel downs in there kind of, puffing the stats a little bit. But still, we're talking like 4 yards a pop, which, to be fair, is what the Chiefs wanted also on that drive. You want to just bleed the clock out there. But I don't know. I feel like the Chargers feel good. Chargers now fall, I think, into a 3-way tie for the other wildcard teams with the Ravens, with the Broncos. So I think from a neutral standpoint, this was the better outcome. The Chiefs, we can kind of pencil in as the 1 seed now. We'll get to the Bills game shortly, but Chiefs are 2 games up, probably looking relatively safe there. We're used to that, but we get an interesting wildcard race now, interesting positioning between those teams, even if it is those 3. We'll get to Miami. They're maybe in the mix now as they hunt. The Colts were off this week. They're probably in the mix still. So, I think this is the more interesting outcome because we can all like debate about the doink and did the refs gift the Chiefs another one? Like, of course not. That's not a thing. But yeah, I guess from a betting standpoint, one little thought I have that I'm not going to bet just yet, but I'm keeping an eye on it. I'm not totally convinced that some Chief is like, I think the Chief could win an award. We've talked about Andy Reid for Coach of the Year. They could still get to like 16-1. They're only 4 more wins away from it. Tough schedule. Josh Allen lost. Lamar Jackson's lost a bunch of games. Running back might not win MVP. We still think MVP is open. If the Chiefs really get to 15-2, 16-1, and like lap the rest of the NFL, and if Josh Allen loses another game or 2, and now the Chiefs are up like 3-4 games on them by the end, are we sure? Are we positive we wouldn't just give the best player in the league, the guy who we all watch, and we're like, yeah, here goes Pat, right up and down the field again for the win? Isn't that the MVP? I don't think it's totally dead yet.
I mean, he's 30-1 right now, and we'll talk about Josh Allen, who is the odds-on favorite by a decently large margin. But you're not wrong, except that it's just the numbers from Josh after 6 touchdowns. It's kind of stupid. I'll say after the Chargers, though, they did look competent, and they look competent in a game without McConkey and Dobbins, and they have injuries kind of a little bit all over the place here. So I think you're right. Pretty impressive. And they have a huge game against Denver coming up, since I believe they hold the advantage over them currently, but will be right in the race when that game happens. All right, let's keep rolling here. Jets, Miami. Dolphins get the win 32-26 in overtime. Now, at Action Labs, Action Network, we closed at 6.5. So the Jets do end up getting the closed cover there, but there were 5.5s and 6s all week. So it depended where you got it. And the total goes over 45 with overtime. From my point of view, before I toss it to you, Jets eliminated from the playoffs now officially, so it's 14 straight years. Now Miami is still in it with this, which is very important. The interesting thing on the 6.5 line, this was the largest underdog in Rodgers' career versus a divisional opponent. So this was basically the bottom after he dominated the NFC North so many years in Green Bay. And a fun one before I toss it, in Tua's career, he is 12-0 straight up versus the Jets and Patriots and 1-8 versus the Bills.
Wow. Yeah, I had the first half under on this one. It was a good clue right away that this day was not going my way. Here's how the game starts in the first half. Touchdown, field goal, touchdown, field goal. They scored in every possession until a kneel down before the half. It should have been more points. Probably should have been like 41. We settled for a bunch of short field goals, and really that was kind of the story of the game. Both teams kept moving the ball, kept getting long drives, settling for field goals. Otherwise, I think either team could have won relatively comfortably if they just punched in a few more touchdowns. The Jets hit a 42-yard field goal with 52 seconds left. Shades of Clemson SMU. If you watch that on Saturday night, Miami gets the kickoff return, down now 3 with under a minute left, but returned it out to the 45. 2 passes, you're in field goal range, we go to overtime. And like the rest of the game, effectively, whoever won the coin toss was probably going to win this one because no defense had been stopping anyone all game, maybe just the red zone. So Miami won the toss. Jonnu Smith, our hero from Thanksgiving evening, no touches all game. First play of overtime, 20-yard catch. Second play, 14-yard catch. Gets in for the touchdown for the win. Miami finished 1 of 9 on third downs, but if you look at their EPA per play, 0.3 EPA per play on early downs, 58 early downs. That's a really good mark. Negative 0.23 on 12 late downs. So they get the win, but they were consistently moving the ball on the Jets all game long. It just didn't happen on the third downs when they got there. Aaron Rodgers, 339 yards. First 300-yard game for him since December 2021. That was 35 games ago for him. So, we got there, Aaron. We got there. One more 300-yard game. Dolphins 6-7. So we just talked about those 3 AFC wildcard teams. I think they're the team of most intrigue left. They go to Houston next week, a team that you and I have certainly had plenty of bad things to say. Houston's off a bye week, but Houston, then San Fran, no longer as daunting of a task. Cleveland, then the Jets again. Now, 3 of those are on the road. This is a different looking Miami team. They're not chunking with the huge plays. They're chewing up the middle of the field. They're getting the ball out quick. Tua's putting up some great looking counting numbers because they're just getting the ball out, getting to their playmakers over the middle, letting them do their thing. And I don't know. We get to see if it's real or not. They're going to need some help either way. But that Miami-Houston game next week suddenly looks really interesting.
Yeah, and Tua has an opportunity, even though it is indoors, to beat a good team on the road, which he just absolutely hasn't done in his entire career. So we get to watch that next week, which should be a really good game. Right now, Houston is a 2-point favorite, 1 o'clock window next week. All right, let's keep going here. The Bills and the Rams. Rams get the win 44-42, highest scoring game of the day. Shout out to Billy Ward, who had that at about 5-1 in one of our articles earlier.
Highest scoring game of the season, I think, too.
Oh, really? There you go. Even better. Nice job, Billy. So Rams get the win there. 3.5-point home dogs. Total goes over 49.5. I mean, from the start, the Bills basically trailed the entire game. I mean, the Rams really played up here. Stafford played absolutely amazing. I think if you watch the game, though, you come away with Puka Nacua. I believe he led all of Sunday wide receivers or, anyone in receiving yards on this day, which was like 14-1 entering the day as well. He had a fantastic day. But Stafford overall had a success rate of 66% in this game. I mean, he tore it up. He was all over the place. And last 4 games, 10 passing touchdowns, 0 picks for him. He has 13 20-plus yard plays in those 4 games. I mean, he has been on an absolute tear. I believe the Rams are 3-1 in those 4 games. And they've got themselves just still in the picture because I think a lot of people looked at this one and said, well, they're probably going to lose to Buffalo. But really played well, played up to competition. He was tossing it around to all of his receivers. And then on the other side of the ball, I mean, Josh Allen legitimately did absolutely everything he could, scoring 6 touchdowns in this game, 3 in the air, 3 on the ground. Didn't have a receiving touchdown this week, so that's the only thing he didn't do. But I mean, and right now at a few sports books, he's minus 450 to win the MVP. I mean, there is a large, and he lost this game. So, I mean, there is a large gap. If you look at the market right now, he's minus 450, Saquon's plus 550, and then you jump to Lamar at 14-1 and Goff at 17-1. And then the person you had discussed, Mahomes, is still 30-1 right now to win the award. The only other things I'll say about this game, Rams were 12 of 16 on 3rd and 4th down, which basically won them the day. Because without all that stuff and the 6 touchdowns on their side, it would have been impossible to win the game. The crazy part about this, so Buffalo has now scored 30-plus points in 7 straight games. Buffalo had an 8.2 yards per play today and lost. The Bills are the first team to score 6-plus touchdowns with no turnovers and lose the game. I mean, I don't take anything away from this game from the offensive side. I do probably have to look at the defensive side from Buffalo when they're losing games 44-42. Your main competition is Kansas City, and they're winning games 19-17. I think there's going to be an interesting math problem if they meet. Obviously, we already saw that once. To me, this was just an amazing game to watch. I'm going to probably rewatch it. There were no sacks in the game. There were no turnovers. There was also no scoreless quarter for any team. I mean, this was just pure, awesome football. The Bills-Rams game was the first game in NFL history in which each team scored 40-plus points and had no turnovers. So it is just a really, really fun game overall. I think it's also worth mentioning Buffalo next week. Maybe the game of the season. Forget Bills-Chiefs. I want to watch Bills-Lions. And that's exactly what we're going to see, which could be a Super Bowl preview, which, oh my God, could you imagine the world in a Bills-Lions to get to the Super Bowl? But that's what I got here. I mean, just aside, the only other like play that impacted the game was I don't know if anyone saw this, but the Rams' false start that wasn't called on 4th and 5. If it does get called, is there like a huge impact there? Obviously, this game impacts the NFC West, impacts the 1 seed. So maybe something flips. But other than that, just a fantastic football game.
Yeah, I had a couple other plays of note too. I don't know if you mentioned it, but the Bills had a punt blocked return for a touchdown. Yeah. I kind of thought, honestly, that decided the game in the end because neither defense stopped anybody. No turnovers, only 1 field goal. They were 8 of 9 in the red zone. So we only had 5 punts all game. That's like the only failure that happened, and one of them got blocked for a touchdown. I think, honestly, they ran out of time otherwise, but that was kind of the difference. I just mentioned EPA per play, the early downs on the last game. Rams here for the game, 0.3 EPA per play. That's really good. That is the 95th percentile, just for reference. That's 0.3. The Bills had 0.53 EPA per play. That's like nearly double. And it's what the Rams are already good. It's the 100th percentile. Just crazy offense in this game. The other play is we get down to the end. The Bills are pushing. They're down 9. They need to get into the end zone. They're on like the 1 yard line and they try the QB sneak. Don't get in. So huge stop for the Rams. But McDermott calls the timeout. You can't call the timeout there. Your only job is get in the end zone with your 3 timeouts still so you can kick it off and pin them back deep. Hopefully get a stop. Ain't nobody betting stops all day, but you're going to have to get one. Rather do that than onside kick it. Onsides just aren't working. So that was basically the game at that point. They had to onside it, and they had 2 timeouts left. And the Rams, ironically, of all ways for the game to end, the game ends on the Rams punting. The ball just kind of bounces into the end zone as the clock runs out, and that's the game. Josh Allen, by standard fantasy point scoring, 51.88 points today, the most points in history by a quarterback in fantasy football. Unless, of course, you play college fantasy football, in which case somebody does that like every week. College fantasy is awesome. So, yeah, just a really fun game. I agree. Definitely one to go back and rewatch if you missed it. And, you know, you watch the highlights, you're pretty much watching the whole game because the entire game was highlights.
Yeah, and this is a good one to rewatch, honestly, and I probably will before Bills-Lions next week. That total right now, which you could have told me it was maybe 60, but it's actually 53.5.
And rising. Right. It was 51.5. It's already gone up a couple of points because how could it not?
Oh, wow. Oh, wow. Yeah. Oh, yeah. I see. It actually opened 50.5 for us. So, yeah, on the rise there. All right. My big stat is going to be super simple today, so we can keep rolling here. The longest ATS winning streak right now in the NFL. Do you have any guesses?
Oh, man.
I'm putting you on the spot here. We did not talk about this.
Jacksonville.
It's a great guess, and you're on the right track. It is the Carolina Panthers, who are
Oh.
5-0 against the spread since November 1st. No other team in the NFL is undefeated during that span.
Panthers
Bryce Young has
Island.
looked like, yes, Panthers Island. Bryce Young's looked good. I mean, since he got benched, he feels like he has a little bit of swagger behind him, but that is the big stat. All right, let's keep rolling. Carolina at the Eagles. Eagles hold on 22-16 as a 14-point favorite on close. The total goes under 44.5. So the two notes here before I toss it to you: double-digit favorites started this season 5-0 against the spread. They are now 0-4 ATS since that mark, and of course the $3.1 million man who definitely didn't care about this game, because if you put $3.1 million on a game, you're not sweating it. So what do you have to say?
Yeah, I mean, that was really the big story of this game, was the $3 million bet that the whole world is sweating more than the guy that actually made
Correct.
the bet. So, yeah, honestly, the stats digging into this say that this game was every bit as close as it looked. Eagles win by a touchdown under, 6 points. Kind of a yikes result for Philadelphia. Now, look, you can have one of these results. The Panthers are playing a little better. Good for them. I doubted whether Bryce Young could do it against a better defense, and they did a nice job today. I think more the story is like Chuba Hubbard was good, Thielen was good, Bryce Young was fine, which is good. Fine is good. He got benched and looked not an NFL player like 2 months ago. We'll take fine against a good defense. Eagles even get 300 yards. I don't know how you do that against this terrible Panthers defense. Now, part of it is that they don't have the ball very much, but I thought Jalen Hurts, not great. Like, I still don't trust this passing game. The numbers are pretty good when A.J. Brown is on the field, which he was. But Hurts only 108 yards today, took 4 sacks against not a great defense. Under 300 yards against the Panthers. Again, I can excuse it. You're allowed one. You can be the Chiefs. Just get a win sometimes. This is what a Chiefs game sort of felt like here. But it's also what the Eagles did all last season. And I don't love that we might be trending back that way. So it's not a trend yet. It's one game. And it's an easy letdown spot, get other games up ahead. But, credit the Panthers. Maybe I was just half a season early on Panthers Island. Be nice if they could get a couple more wins here. Maybe we get backdoor cash that over 5.5. We're still 3 wins away, so today would have been nice. But yeah, I've got an eye on the Eagles. It's a team that has now won, I think, 9 in a row out of the bye. But this is not a great win. Let's see how they respond to what kind of feels like a loss next week.
Does feel like a loss, but also very funny that they finished so bad last year and are probably they could run the table this year and do the exact opposite. But I still don't know. I mean, their pass defense has been absurd in terms of just bend but not break, not allowing tons of yards, which is difficult. Where you're going to face the Lions and this and that, and it could be stingy, which is interesting. All right, Seattle at Arizona. So Seattle wins 30-18 as a 3-point underdog on the road. Total goes over 45.5. I mean, early on, there was 24 points in the first quarter. Seattle ended up leading 24-10 at the half. But this game really just comes down to Arizona had 2 turnovers. They went 4 of 12 on third down. They had no sacks on defense. And Seattle had 6.7 yards per play. I mean, other than that, Arizona always felt about a possession and a half behind most of the game. Yeah. Even when they got close, Seattle kind of had the answers. And it all was Zach Charbonnet. 134 rushing yards. That is the most for a Seahawks running back since the 2022 season. So no Kenneth Walker. Forget all that stuff. We actually might be looking at someone that is going to be in competition, especially some of the fumbles. Walker can't stay on the field. Charbonnet looked great today. And then Geno. I think this is worth actually talking about because he's had some struggles at home, but on the road, been great. They're 5-1 straight up. He only has 2 interceptions. His passer rating is 13 points higher on the road than it is at home. So something seems to be clicking there on the Seattle side. Now, quickly on Arizona. Kyler had a really tough passing day here. So the 2 interceptions, fine. But it was also the 3rd worst completion percentage over expected for any quarterback on the day. It was Drew Lock, who started like 0 of 8 passing on the day. It was Will Levis and Kyler Murray. That is not a list he wants to be on. So really the complete opposite of what we saw from Geno. Listen, the Cardinals have now lost 3 in a row. During that span, Kyler is 24th in EPA per play. Like, we are seeing kind of what the trend has been with him. They get in a spot to be good, and then he brings them back to mediocrity. And that kind of feels like what Arizona is going through here. Since the beginning of the 2022 season, the Cardinals are 4-12 now against the spread versus the NFC West. That is the least profitable team versus their own division in that span. Any team in the NFL. So over and over again, I feel like we're getting to a spot where, like, okay, this is the game Arizona's going to do it and be good. And we get this kind of flat spot. Now, looking at the division, Arizona is now 0-2 versus Seattle, but they're 1-0 versus San Francisco and the Rams. Seattle is 0-1 versus the Rams with 1 game to play. So still a lot of kind of juggling, but this is a really big win for Seahawks Island, which I know you and I have both kind of touted. So this is a really big one to kind of get Arizona a game and a half behind you, because they can't tie.
2.5, really. 2.5, because they're up 2 games plus the tie break. So it's really the Rams that are the bigger threat at this point. And that's that Seattle goes to LA to close out the season in week 18. That's the early favorite for that Sunday night game to close the season out, where it's like, all right, here's a de facto playoff game. We could be headed that way on Seattle and Los Angeles.
It's crazy. The Seahawks, they're at home dog against the Packers next week. It'll be their 9th consecutive game as an underdog, which I found very, very interesting. They're just going to keep putting up offense, keep winning, being stingy on defense, and being dogs to good opponents. But I found that intriguing. All right, let's keep moving here. Cleveland at Pittsburgh. The Steelers win the game 27-14. They cover as a 6-point favorite. The total goes under 42.5. The streak that continues here. Browns have now lost 21 consecutive regular season games in Pittsburgh. Last win coming Tim Couch in 2003. Oof. And I found this one really interesting. I looked this up. The Steelers are now 29-0 against the spread in their straight up wins since the start of the 2022 season. No wins without a cover for Pittsburgh.
Wow. They really shouldn't have covered this one, I'll be honest.
Yeah,
the Browns, I thought, played them even, other than they're the Browns. So the Browns, they led 7-3 early. Then Jameis does what he does, throws an interception, short field touchdown. And then right into halftime, long drive for Cleveland, they miss the field goal. Out of halftime, long drive, they miss the field goal, turnover on downs the next drive, bang, 27-7. And it just goes that way. The Browns, by a lot of the numbers, are the better team, but they have 3 turnovers to 1, and they go 2 of 13 on 3rd down, and they give the game away. They missed a couple of field goals. I have to own this one. Maybe my worst hot read outcome of the year here. This was a look ahead, actually. I had the under 40.5. The total moved, I believe, up to 43.5. If you took the closing under, you won 41 points. If you took my look ahead under before the line moved, look, Cleveland and Pittsburgh both scored like 3,000 points last week. This was the real kick in the balls for me today, and for you guys that tailed as well. So, we're pretty good at finding CLV. We got terrible CLV on this one, and I loved a victory lap when we close out a winner that we had to snag early. This is the opposite. We don't have too many of those, so I'll own it. We'll get the next one.
Just a tough result overall. And there was so many points in this game when Cleveland was close, and everyone, I know a bunch of us were on Cleveland +7, and we were like, okay, as long as Jameis doesn't. Oh, okay.
Yeah. Jameis always does. It's the problem.
And the issue is like when you're betting on Jameis, okay, fine. But you also know you're betting on Jameis in a game against the Steelers, who kind of force people into these types of choices. It's just a tough result overall. All right. Rest of the slate, we're going to go quickly here. Falcons, Vikings, the Kirk Cousins Bowl. Vikings win the game 42-21, covering the 6-point spread. Total goes over 46.5. The real kind of crazy one here is the role as an underdog for Cousins has been pretty bad. Since 2022, he is 3-10 as a dog, 2-11 straight up in those games. And Cousins hasn't thrown a touchdown in 4 games. His last was against the Cowboys. It was so long ago Dak played in that game. So that is how long ago Kirk Cousins threw a touchdown. What do you got here, Brandon?
Yeah, I gotta be honest. Just as a Vikings fan, and it's 42-21 late, the Falcons are driving. I think everybody's honestly rooting for Kirk to throw a touchdown at that point. Like, come on, let the man have 1 touchdown in his homecoming here, at least homecoming to where he played for 6 seasons. Yeah, I had the jilted lovers, the wide receiver thing here. Drake London came up just short. We got a little garbage time, almost got there. Minnesota's receivers apparently were jilted, though, because Jordan Addison, 133 and 3 touchdowns. Justin Jefferson, 7 for 132 and 2 touchdowns. Sam Darnold had a monster game, so much that I saw my timeline, at least, talking about, is Sam Darnold in the MVP race now? Let me summarize for you. No. But, nice game. Glad you have a big game here. Atlanta actually had a huge game offensively, too. Like, this is a 21-point game. It's tied into the fourth quarter. This just kind of got away late. Atlanta finished 2 of 5 in the red zone. They turned over 3 times. But I do think it's notable. I don't really feel like people are talking about this yet. Last year, Minnesota's defense, the Brian Flores defense, really fell off later in the season as opponents kind of adjusted to it. Now, look, the Vikings had some injuries as well, so that was definitely part of it. The Vikings' defensive numbers have been slowly tailing off a little bit. Atlanta had almost 500 yards of offense today. And this is an offense that hasn't really been that good lately. And they would have kept it much closer. 2 field goals in the red zone, turnover and down at the 13, 2 interceptions in Minnesota territory. Sneakily, maybe it's just my Minnesota nihilism, but I do think that Vikings defense is slowly trending like, look, it's just regression to the mean. You can't be the number 1 forever. And I think that they are trickling backward a little bit more than people have noticed. And a scoreline like this kind of goes that direction as well.
Yeah, and the rest of their schedule, now granted, they don't need wins. I mean, they'd like to have wins, I think, at this point. I think they see themselves in the playoffs, but Lions, Packers, Seahawks, Bears. I mean, I guess for Bears. But aside from that, nothing super easy. All right, let's keep rolling. Raiders, Bucks. So the Bucks get the win and cover the 7-point spread, 28-13. Total goes under 47. The story here from the Raiders side, Aiden O'Connell hurt, Desmond Ridder in. Looks like O'Connell is done for the season, potentially. He's going to have more tests on Monday, but looks like he could be done. It could be Desmond Ridder time in Vegas. And then from Baker's point of view, between 2018 and 2022, Baker was 29, 41, and 1 against the spread, the 3rd worst mark in the NFL. With the Bucks, he is now 20 and 12 against the spread. So a complete and utter confidence change, in my opinion, from Baker. But what do you got here?
Yeah, Desmond Ridder. We get the revenge game next week. Monday Night Football. Desmond Ridder against the Falcons. Get excited. If you like watching Vikings Falcons today, don't worry. You could watch both of them on Monday night. We got the doubleheader coming a week from now. So that's something to look forward to. Bucks dominated this game. It took them a while to actually pull away, but the stats are pretty heavily in their favor. Bucky Irving did get injury late. Tampa Bay's running game has really come around this season. So keep an eye on that one. Bucks are alone in first place now with the Atlanta loss and the Tampa win. That's important because Atlanta swept the Buccaneers. So they win the tiebreak, but the Bucks are game up now. This is one that you and I have talked about for about a month now. We got that plus 700 ticket. You ain't going to get 700 anymore now. You may want to think about the other way, depending on what you think about Atlanta or the Saints, I guess, who are up next, but probably not. But Tampa looking pretty good. Atlanta not looking so good. The Buccaneers, I think, might have actually, other than the Chiefs, I think in the NFC, the Buccaneers have the longest playoff streak right now. And it suddenly looks like they might just be lining up for another one this year.
Bucks Chargers next week just sounds like a fun game between an NFC AFC with just different styles. So that should be a good one. All right, Saints Giants. So Saints get the win 14-11. But the Giants cover the spread at home plus 4.5. Total goes way under 40.5 at 14-11 there. Derek Carr hurt in this one. Also looks like it doesn't look great overall, leaving the arena in an air cast. Jake Haener comes in. I'm not really sure, and I don't know if you know this. Like, where was Spencer Rattler? Is he hurt too? I actually don't remember.
No, I think that the last time Carr got hurt, the same thing happened. Haener came in. I think I think Rattler is like the third quarterback, so he
Okay.
can't come in unless they both get hurt. But then I wouldn't be surprised if Rattler ends up starting. Like I think
Sure.
Hayner is ready to be the backup any given play, but Rattler is the guy that I suspect he may start the final month, and let's see what we got from him. So I think
Yeah.
it's probably just that again. But yeah, Derek Carr looks like from my Twitter doctor folks, looks like a fracture in his non-throwing hand. So I think you'd be surprised to see him again. We're going to get back to this game, Saints, next week in the hot read, but that line on the next week's Saints game against the Commanders has already moved over a field goal, and the total's dropped way down. So certainly books are expecting that no Derek Carr next week. I believe only twice this season. As you know, I love to fade Derek Carr. I love to fade Dennis Allen when he still existed. I think 2 times this season, I have decided to believe and invested in a Saints pick and a Saints future. And in both times, 2 days later, we got a game and Derek Carr got injured and missed time again. So I'm done with the Saints after this. 14-3 late. They almost were done with themselves. The Giants almost accidentally won this game. They get a long 13-play touchdown drive, then the interception, then they go 56 yards. They get down to the 12-yard line for the easy field goal, the 35-yarder to tie. And Graham Gano going to get some like posters up in New York, heroically misses the field goal. Jacksonville, who we're going to get to in a second, won the game today. We're down to the Giants and the Raiders, the only teams tied at the bottom of the standings for that number 1 pick. Huge hero move for Graham Gano. And Drew Lock trying a little too hard out there. You can see why the Giants wanted Tommy DeVito playing, because Giants accidentally staying a little competitive in this one. That's not really the plan right now.
Yeah, Giants and Jets now 5-21 this year. But this one was a really, really good loss for the Giants. But all right, let's keep. Oh, the only thing I was going to say here is Giants ended their 7-game ATS losing streak, which intriguing nonetheless that they got the cover here. No one figures out a way to bet against the Saints. They are just up and down so much, it's ridiculous. And also, it's funny that you put a lot of futures into the app, and that's kind of your portfolio. But I believe your long shots recently were the Jaguars, and then Trevor Lawrence goes down, and then the Saints, and then Derek Carr goes down. So let me know what you're interested in. All right. Chicago at San Francisco. San Francisco beat Chicago 38-13, and honestly, it wasn't even as close as 38-13 sounds. But they were only a 3-point favorite in this game, which I think shocked a lot of people. Total goes over 43.5. Obviously, this is the first game without Eberflus, and holy mackerel. So 24-0 at the half. The storyline going around X and everywhere else was the fact that the yardage at that point was 319-4. The Bears had 5 drives and 4 yards. So honestly, there really isn't much to say aside from the fact that the game finished. San Francisco had 7.4 yards per play. Chicago had 3.1. From a future standpoint on Chicago's side, Caleb got sacked 7 times again in this game. So that is 56 times this year. That is the second most for a rookie through 14 games since the sacks were tracked in, I think it was 82. The only other one would be David Carr, and you never want to be on a sack list with David Carr. And then from San Francisco's side, this was really the get right game that I think we were looking for. Now, San Francisco, this probably isn't their year, even though they are firmly in the conversation for the wild card. But Purdy was great. 20-25, 325, 2 touchdowns, his best passer rating game of the season. And honestly, his ADOT, average depth of target, being 9.5 and only having 5 incompletions, just super, super impressive. But the rest of the Niners schedule, which is Detroit, Rams, Arizona, Miami, is super difficult. And then the stat I'll give you before we move on here, Bears still haven't won on the road on a Sunday in almost 3 full calendar years. It is 20 straight losses on the road on a Sunday for the Bears. Their last win, December of 2021, behind Nick Foles. So Chicago still just kind of figuring everything out, and they might as well keep losing games.
Yeah, I think I saw, I'm going to get the years wrong, I'm guessing here, but I think I saw The Bears have played the 49ers 5 times in the last maybe 7 years, and they've had a different head coach now in every one of the games.
That is, if that's not an encapsulation of everything that's gone on there. It made me think of Jim Tom Sula, but no, that's the other side. All right, Jacksonville at Tennessee. Jags upset the Titans. Can't believe the Titans are favored in games, but it is Mac Jones on the other side. Jags upset the Titans 10-6 as a 3-point dog. Total goes under 40. So the Titans are now 2-11 against the spread this season. That is the worst mark through 13 games since the 2016 Browns. And they've got the Bengals, Colts, Jaguars, and Texans left. So maybe one more easy game. But aside from that, we could be looking at absolute history here, depending on where they finish ATS. But what do you have here?
Yeah, we could, but Will Levis did injure his shoulder again, so we might accidentally get a not terrible quarterback playing for Tennessee. Honestly, the nothingest game of the season so far. You don't need to know anything about this game. Titans are up 6-0 in the fourth quarter. The only reason we do care is because we took the Jaguars mine shaft today. I took them under the 10.5, under the 7.5. So I was in on this game. Remember, I wanted nothing to do with this. Don't put it on red zone. I don't want to ever see a play in this game. Let nothing happen, and nothing, behold, was happening so well until the Jaguars get one good drive, get a touchdown. We still hit the 4-1 under 10.5. It's like my only win of the day. Here's my biggest L of the day, despite all my other losses. So I'm watching the game with my girlfriend. I'm trying to explain to her, okay, so remember how I told you, my thing is the escalators. If I like a bet, I really go high on it. And I'm like, but sometimes, I think Jaguars are not going to score. So then I have to have the opposite of escalators. So we create the mine shaft. I'm explaining the whole thing and I'm getting all excited. She goes, but escalators go both ways. And I never really thought about that before. So I guess maybe it's just an escalator. But either way, we got one level of our escalator mine shaft. We'll take the win. Terrible game. Nothing else to say about it.
Yeah, no future thing to talk about there. It was just the eighth screen is what I'd like to call it. All right, let's talk about another game that is Monday Night Football, which is a little questionable overall in terms of how much it matters. But hey, it's something to gamble on. So Bengals at Cowboys. Monday Night Football overs are 12-4 so far this year, which has been the complete, utter opposite from what we've seen from Sunday Night Football. But the interesting part here is the fact that from a Dallas point of view, they have been really, really bad under McCarthy last few seasons coming out of the locker room. So they are actually 3-9 ATS in the third quarter this year, worst mark in the NFL. And last 3 years, or since the start of last year, they're 8-21 in that spot. So a pretty tough situation. I'll give you my quick bet before I toss it to you. I kind of like Tolbert under 2.5 receptions. I actually saw Matt Treby, who is our NFL editor, talking about this in our Action Network Discord because I think the pro projections like it as well. But to me, you're getting Brandon Cooks back in action, and he's basically taking up that slot that Tolbert would be. So I think you're going to lose some snaps here, even after last week. And you still have Mingo and Brooks, who kind of play that role as well. So that was one I was looking at. What do you think about Monday Night Football?
I think that they are lucky that they're doing the Simpsons thing, because that's about the only interesting thing about this game. I do want to see, we got Mina Kimes gets her own Simpsons icon. I want to see what that looks like. We did the Toy Story game last year, and I was like, come on, what are we doing? The Toy Story game was awesome. I don't know how you have a game in near real time turning into animated Toy Story and now Simpsons. I don't know how you pull that off. I want to see that. It has to be these teams. So be it, I guess. Over would have been the play here, but the over got crushed this week. It was 45.5 last Sunday. It's up toward 50 now, but the Bengals defense is so bad. Cowboys, especially at home, have been really bad defensively. Bengals pass offense is the only good thing this game. So if we're watching for Simpsons characters to do fun stuff, that's probably our best bet. I'll be honest, I had so little on this game, but I got to have a bet. I was like, all right, who on either team has a Simpsons character name? Let's go for an anytime touchdown or prop for Simpsons character. Nothing. There's no Nahasapima Petalones or anybody else on this team. So here's the pick. I got some trends for you. I'm just taking the Bengals. If you get it below the 6, here's some trends. Team agnostic ones. Road favorites Monday night between 3 to 7 points, 59% against the spread. road favorites of 3 or more after losing as a home favorite. That's the Bengals, 59% ATS. Teams on a 3-game losing streak, like the Bengals, against a team on a 2 or 3-game winning streak, which apparently is the Cowboys, 62% ATS. And a couple Joe Burrow stats. Burrow after a loss, 65% against the spread. Burrow in non-division games after the first 4 weeks, 72% ATS. Bengals are still trying to hang around in this thing. I think we all know where we're headed on that. But I'll follow the trends and get something on it. Watch the Simpsons thing and get out of here. And so yeah, Bengals minus 5.5 below the key number. We'll put that in as the pick for this one.
It's really just a shame that Jerome Simpson wasn't a wide receiver in this game, because he would have gotten a lot of targets and a good touchdown bet. Okay, cool. Those are the bets for Monday Night Football. Now, I believe you have 2 hot reads. So what's your first one?
Yeah, first one is a little bit different than usual. I'm going to take Colts Broncos under 43.5. Now, here's what's different. Colts and Broncos didn't play today. Normally on Hot Read, we are trying to play something to fade the movement of what's just happened today. But I had this one circled coming in, and it's already dropping at a couple of books. So you want to grab under 43.5, 40, 41, 43 are all key numbers. Here's the key stat. Here's why I had this one circled from the jump. I'm going to lead with a trend here. In games with a total of at least 40, which is most of them, where both teams are coming off a bye week over the last 2 decades, the under is 68% hit rate, including the under has hit in 8 straight of those games by over 10 points a game. The average score in those 8 games is 32.6 combined. Not one game went over 40 points in that mix. So that bodes very well for a pick here. And then if you just look at the teams, Denver, their last time out, they got embarrassed. That Monday night, they got lit up by Jameis Winston. Now they had 2 weeks to get ready for Anthony Richardson. Man, I don't know how that's going to go for the Colts. Anthony Richardson, against all that pressure, a third of his passes are deep. He's just chucking it, hoping for big plays. This is not the defense, I don't think, to do that against. Denver is especially good on early downs. So we're just going to get like Indianapolis living on big plays. Colts offense has really only been good late in the game. That's where Denver's defense has been their best. Colts defense, not terrible either. Top 10 on first quarter and the third quarter. That's when Denver has been a little better with some of their scripted stuff for Bo Nix. Really, we kind of have a 2 rookie showdown here. Richardson's basically a rookie still. Obviously, Bo Nix is. 2 weeks for the defense to prep. I'm just going to take the under here, under 43.5. Again, that trend, both teams coming off a double bye. That is one of my favorite under trends. So lock that one in from the start, even though neither one of those teams played today.
Yeah, I have both of those. I have so many Bet Live systems, as does a lot of us who work here. But bet under recently, where both teams are on long rest. Extended rest, where both teams are on extended rest, is 62%, 102, 63, and 1. So yeah, all of them kind of fit that. So I'm on the same page. I think the entire bet is all Indy's defense, because I think you know exactly what you're going to get from Denver's defense, as long as it's not a crazy Jameis Monday Night Football game.
Yeah, I think so. All right, my second hot read is a teaser. We haven't done a lot of teasers this year. It's one of my just win baby teasers. So here are the 2 picks. Arizona Cardinals, minus 6.5, home against the Patriots. We're going to tease that down to 0.5 point. So we just got to win that one. And then we'll do another one very similar. We'll take the Commanders on the road, minus 7 at the Saints. We'll tease that one down to 1. So we just basically need to win both games. Washington, please, for the love of God, don't win by 1 point, and then we'll be good to go. As usual, when we do one of these kind of just win teasers, the case is pretty simple, so I don't have to get too far into it. So first game, Cardinals-Patriots. The Cardinals are not coming off a bye. I think they look pretty good. They still, even today, were pretty impressive offensively with the way Seattle's defense has been playing. I know they had the 2 early interceptions by Kyler. I thought otherwise they kind of hung in there. And the Cardinals are just way better than the Patriots, who are dead last by DVOA, bottom 3 offense, bottom 3 defense. I do think Drake May is playing pretty well, to be honest, but there's not a lot of other help there. The Cardinals are 6-7. They're not dead yet, but they probably have to win out. They certainly have to win this game. New England, I think, would frankly prefer to lose anyway when it comes down to it. So Arizona at home, I just think is the much better team. Commanders are off the bye week. Jaden Daniels, I think that's really big for him. He got banged up early, has never really gotten healthy. Now he's gotten a little chance to rest. Hopefully, our guy Cliff Kingsbury could do a little self-scouting, see what the offense can improve on. I think the health factor off the rest for this team is really big. Offensive line was getting really banged up. Grant Robinson's missed a bunch of time. Washington's 7-2 when he plays. That's important this one because they are the number 32 run defense, are the Saints. So I think Washington should be able to move the ball pretty easily here, especially running the ball. The Saints, really, if they're going to hang in this game, it has to be because Washington's pass defense is very beatable. But no Derek Carr, as it looks like in the spread, as we talked about. So I don't know. I'd probably prefer Spencer Rattler to Jake Haener, but I'm not sure I care a whole lot on this one. So far, when Derek Carr did not play at all this season, the Saints lost by 18, 23, and 24 points. So we just need them to lose by 2. Cardinals win. They need the win to catch the Commanders. The Commanders need to win to stay ahead of the Cardinals. So kind of taking advantage of the incentives a little bit here. I don't love how much this is tied to Cliff Kingsbury, his old team and his new team. Don't love taking 2 Cliff Kingsbury teams late in the year to go out and get that win. But we just need to win. Just win, baby. Cardinals, Commanders on the teaser.
Yeah, at this point, the Cardinals absolutely need the game, and they're lucky to be in the race after losing 3 straight. So I like that. You know Drake May is going to keep it close, but probably make the mistake against a stingy Arizona defense that probably locks it away. Then from the other side, Jaden Daniels, I mean, as long as you think the Dallas game, where they were 10.5-point favorites, was a bit of a fluke, I mean, he's been pretty nails and rocks as a favorite this year. He's 4, let's see, I'm looking at this. Yeah, he's like 6-2 ATS as a favorite, which is really, really good from a rookie point of view. So I like it. All right. That has been the Action Network podcast, the recap episode off of week 14. The only real announcement is we'll be back, but there are no more buys. So we are going to have a lot of games every single week now on the stretch run. So looking forward to it. Going to go a little bit faster through some stuff, especially some of these bad ones, but it's going to be great. Thank you for listening, and see you guys next time.